Go.
Hello, welcome to Is Today the Day podcast. We're a bit late with this one. We're actually about a week late, and today we are broadcasting Saturday instead of our usual Friday. The virus, among with technical difficulties, has just kind of made it where, well, it was a bit difficult, so we didn't want to completely botch a show and bring even more disappointment than just skipping over. So thank you if you're listening today. I'll go ahead and start with prayer. Lord, thank you for bringing us together this evening. Thank you for making this podcast possible. I pray for the safety of my brothers and people listening, Lord. I pray for the safety of myself and my family. I pray, Lord, that you bring clarity in this time of deceit and rumors. I pray for the nation of China. If things get worse, Lord, that you protect us. Thank you, Lord, for everything you continue to do in this time of trial. All right, well, let's get started. Amen.
A shantyman's life is a wearisome one, though some say it's free from care. It's the swinging of an axe from morning till night in the forest wild and drear. Transported as we are from a lady so fair to the banks of some lonely stream, where the wolf, bear, and owl give a terrifying howl and disturb our nightly dreams. Or sleeping at night in our bunks without cheer, while the cold winter winds do blow. But as soon as the morning star does appear, to the wildwoods we must go. Had we ale, wine, or beer, our spirits far to cheer when we're in those woods so wild, where a glass of whiskey shown while we're in the woods alone, for to pass away our long exile. A shantyman's life is a wearisome one, though some say it's free from care. It's a swinging of an axe from morning till night in the forest wild and drear.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. I'm joined here today with IT and Warspirit. It's a pleasure to be here. I gotta say I've been fairly tired this whole weekend, but I wanted to get the show done. Not because I have to, but because there's some pretty cool stuff to talk about. And, well, we do want to do the show that way. If there are, loyal listeners someday, that we're not too sporadic where they just lose interest, So, I suppose today I was looking through things and just what I've heard through the week. First things is rumors. My goodness, it's gotten to the point where it's extremely frustrating, and we actually talked about that before, where it was just anarchy with rumors. Like there's no clear information anywhere, really.
Right.
And so while I think it's a local deal, sadly, if I'm realistic, it's really not. It's across this whole country because one, you can't trust the media. Two, you can't trust the politicians. And three, I mean, there's really no one other than them that's supposed to know, that we should, I don't know, not should, but that we rely on for news, for solid news. So it's not until whistleblowers, and that's with everything these days, like actual whistleblowers with visual or audible proof of some kind, then we're like, okay, yeah, that's what's going on because of that strange thing. So on this show, we really do try not to fall into panic and rumors. And, our objective here is not to make people freak out. If anything, I kind of want the show to be a place where it's like chill and it's a discussion and it's not like go now, you know what I mean? So, I mean, if it gets to that, yeah, we'll tell you, but I want to be a reliable source for that sort of thing. So firstly, there's some changes of laws, like out on the reservation, for example. Right now we have who enforces that? Is that a state thing? Oh no, it couldn't be a state thing.
If
Is
it's
it
Navajo Nation, then it's the Navajo Nation police.
It's the Navajo Nation, yeah. So the Navajo Nation itself, being that it's kind of a weird pseudo nation within a nation, has in place a curfew and even stricter kind of stay-at-home regulations than the rest of New Mexico. As for like actual enforcement, one, police don't enforce things on the res anyway, so don't worry about it. Two, if you're caught out past 8 p.m., I would be very hard-pressed to believe that there's going to be a cop there to see you. Do you see how empty that place is? I mean, seriously. But anyways, these are the laws that are in place in the reservation. The new laws in place, if you go out in public, you're supposed to wear a mask. That's the New Mexico state thing, I believe. I don't know if that's mandatory, but I don't know. I got a notification on the phone that was like, wear a mask now. And I don't know if there's like a ticket or anything you can get for not wearing it. Yeah.
Way.
Yeah, that would be really crap.
There's an interesting reason for that.
Go on.
Did you hear about the CDC as far as the conundrum that they've gotten into?
I hear that they're planning on doing some Orwellian bull crap.
Negative. I'm talking about the masks. So they actually, at the beginning of all this, they were like, don't wear a mask. The masks aren't going to do you any good because it only does any good like if you're already sick and all this. And the reason that they did that and downplayed it, they downgraded it from airborne to air droplets because they knew already beforehand that they had a mask shortage. And so they downgraded it to that, encouraged other people not to be wearing masks because that way, in their minds, they could get the healthcare workers the masks that they needed. And all the while, they knew that it was airborne.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
Well, I don't know.
One way we could have fixed that, not have all of our mask production located in China.
Amen. Have you seen some of the conditions of those masks that are coming out?
Yeah, there's
they're being made.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, there's a video of them making these masks in China, and there's a big pile of them, and they're on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
disgusting.
It's the thing that just bothers me is just how unprepared we are for anything like this. Like, we could have been prepared before, like, any of this would have happened. Even as far as constructing a cure, because this COVID-19 is a strain of coronavirus. You know what I'm saying? I keep saying it over and over.
Correct.
I sound like a damn broken record. But had we found a cure for SARS or even MERS at this point, we would have been able to construct a cure for this new strain, COVID-19, in half the time.
Yeah, it would have just been a retrovirus.
Exactly. It would have just been another day. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
it wouldn't have been potential history
Yeah.
right now. You know,
It would have been like, there's a new sickness. Cool.
right. Yep. Peace
You know what
out.
I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
that would have been
Right.
And it's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping I haven't really looked at any graphs or anything recently, but I'm fingers crossed that the curve does flatten, because that's what this whole stay-at-home order is trying to do, is to flatten the curve, because we're not looking to overload the hospitals, because that would be it. Once that happens, we're going to choose old people over young people. It's just going to be as simple as that. People are just going to die, and that's just how it's going to work.
and that's kind of that's the whole moral conundrum we're at, is like, no matter what we do, people are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so is it really worth just bum blasting the economy into oblivion?
Well,
Because
that's the question. Would you rather your grandmother live, or would you rather the economy survive? Because the economy can come back, but once your grandma dies, dude, that's it. She ain't coming back.
Well, that's
Right.
I mean, my grandma dying versus starvation, where the country dies.
It's one of those things, though, that we can recover from. Like, take the Soviet Union. I mean, the Soviet Union recovered. I mean, look at Russia. I mean, and not everybody, I know that it's not the best ever, but I mean, it's certainly better conditions than they were in. You know what I mean?
And we have a lot stronger economy than either one of those,
Exactly.
Russia or the Soviet
Right.
Union.
I mean, we have
So-
we have $600 billion in the military budget alone, just for defense, like,
Right.
that we are appropriating for medical supplies now, a good portion of it, from what I can recall.
Well, the only found intelligence in this nation is really with the older generation. So once that goes, I mean, you're stuck with literal Tide Pod eating sons of bitches. So I don't know where we're gonna go from there.
Yeah.
Okay, boomer.
Got him. Got him. But
So-
I mean, it's one of those ordeals where it's your right foot or your left foot. What do you want to take?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just always looked at it in a sense of, I can't get my family members back, but the economy can bounce back. So
Right. Well,
that's the way Americans have always been. I mean, it doesn't matter.
the Great Depression, take the Great Depression, man. People were literally starving. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody's gotten that desperate now. We're still providing food supplies for people who really need it. I mean, I don't think anybody in America is starving.
Yeah,
well, here's go ahead, Warspirit.
I still see a whole lot of fat people walking around.
Hey,
Right.
myself included.
Right.
I committed gluttony the other day, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah?
me too, man.
Yep. I was
What'd you do?
I was a little bit of a pig. Well, we ordered donuts we got some donuts at like midnight last night. It was pretty
Right.
awesome.
The IT family tradition.
Yeah.
Midnight donuts.
Yep.
It's like
When they're
you would get
fresh.
that early shift.
Yeah.
There's some poor bastard trying to run an office every day, and they're all gone by the time it opens. You know. Anyways, what I was saying, it's like it's the biggest question for an American is, do I want liberty in this respect, or do I want security in this respect? And
Right.
that's kind of what I was getting at. It's like, yeah, grandma's gonna live, but I lost my gun privileges, or that sort of thing, and that doesn't really have anything to do with the economy. But that's like, should we invite the government to step in to help every little person? Because what that will always lead into is like, social programs, which could be good, could be bad. Mostly with our government being the bunch of mongoloids they are, it's bad.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what happened with the Great Depression. I mean, that was an economic crisis, not a viral crisis. So how we're going to react to this, there could be programs that come out of it, there could not be, but it's really just too early to tell still. I mean, we're still seeing the very early stages of it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
It's
this is a
hard to
good
say.
lesson for everybody to learn, that we need to prepare while we can.
Exactly.
So if and when this thing settles down, John, you mentioned our Second Amendment rights. Purchase a long arm and a short arm. Get enough ammunition to last you a couple months, even if you go out and shoot a little bit. That way, you are prepared.
For that.
Precisely. And if you're worried about grandma, that's where I'm at. It's like, if you're worried about grandma, then provide for grandma.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the economy and everything like that, it's kind of frivolous because it's outside of us. You know what I mean? Like, it controls our everyday life, but in the end, we're all we got, and that's pretty much all. That's Americanism routed down to the very core of everything. Is like, there's going to be a time when you're out in your shack in the woods and the government's not going to be there. So what are you going to do?
Right, and that's why when times of strife, everybody does resort back to libertarianism.
Yeah. The whole idea of basically fending for yourself and your family. And that's pretty much always what we've been about. Democrat, Republican, all that's going to go away when society collapses. There's not going to be Democrats or Republicans. There's just going to be people. And the image of people, if it collapses in a terrible way, like we're talking chaos, Teotawaki, Boogaloo, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's just going to be people. Raw, uncensored beast man. You know what I mean? So, while I still believe there's going to be kindness in the world, it's you're going to be overridden with necessity. And so, yeah, if you can prepare, that's good. And that, and me being the faithful guy that I try to be, I think you're absolutely right, Warspirit. I think it's been a warning from God to be like, hey, guys, you're getting a little bit complacent. We need to stop that and get back on track. Because, I don't think the world's going to end from this. I do see some Orwellian laws that are going to stay. I do see that happening. Laws that we didn't have before this that are complete ass are going to stick around. Just because, well, they can once they're passed under the emergency powers or whatever. There's really nothing to stop that from happening. Yeah, so I don't, the whole depression, it's a very different ball game, on the whole security over freedom and all that. I've always leaned more towards freedom than security, because that simple fact is under freedom, you can prep yourself. Under security, if you prep a little too much without letting someone know, that might get hairy, if you get what I'm saying.
And that's already happened.
Yeah.
If you see the post about the guy that was, and he was scalping these. He was price gouging, but he was selling the masks, and they came and confiscated all of them.
Yeah, I did see that. It was a lot of them too.
Yeah, it was 3,000. It was 3 million masks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's it's weird.
He was price gouging, but here's the thing. I hate that term because, when one guy does it, make something way high because of supply and demand, it's called price gouging. But when Wall Street does it, it's just stocks going up.
Right.
No kidding. And it's another one of those things where it's look at the toilet paper crisis. Looking at economics, right? Realistically speaking, Walmart, one of these chains, would have seen, oh, well, the demand for toilet paper is going to go up, so I'm going to raise the price. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Realistically, somebody would do that. I would have done that. You know what I mean? Because I could get more money to buy more toilet paper and lower, lower the demand because there's going to be more supply. You know what I'm saying? It was just one of those ordeals where that's why toilet paper got bought off the shelves as quickly as it did, is because there wasn't any allowance for anything like that. Because they were tied down, nobody was stopped from getting toilet paper. It was just plain and simple. Nobody was stopped from getting as much as they pleased. And at the same token, it's it sucks because let's say I wanted to go get toilet paper, but I got one of the last ones off the shelves that was $20. You know what I mean? That would have pissed me off. But it's one of those ordeals where I don't think we really see it as much as we should, unless you're obviously involved in the stock market or something like that. In which case, fully, a lot of people would say, I can see it all the time, but more often than not, your average Joe Schmo isn't going to see this realistically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and right. And it's already happened in the firearms world.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, exactly.
All the good deals, the affordable stuff is all gone, especially ammunition. I went shopping last week to get one of my long guns some more food, and I had to buy premium stuff. I couldn't buy the Plinkin stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense. People of, our caliber, seeing what's going on. I mean, it's more power to them, but at the same token, it's equally frustrating when I needed this, and it's like it's not here. Well, that sucks. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I can relate to that. I haven't felt that too much yet.
Yeah,
I know a big thing for America. Sorry, go for it.
I was just saying, I mean, personally, toilet paper in my household, especially now, is it's fine. I've got like,
You better
like
keep
I've
your
got
mouth
like
shut before people come rate your ass, boy.
I don't not like you go ahead, raid me.
Attention, John has plenty of toilet paper.
Yeah, come get my 3 rolls. You'll really appreciate it. You could maybe lick it and
He's
pass
got
it.
Charmin, extra soft.
Extra soft, yep. He's got that Angel Soft on lock. It's like Jonathan has toilet paper. We're going in. They need some help with this one.
Right.
All right, I'm 10-9. I'm
10-8. But
right. First one in.
And it's one of those ordeals where, like, even, I mean, we're seeing things that we didn't really expect. Like, take toilet paper, for instance. Out of all of the things I would expect to get purchased from stores, you would expect the run-of-the-mill ammunition, medicines, which was hit, evidently. But the big thing that I wasn't expecting was toilet paper. And it was one of those things where it's just like, I don't understand what the mentality behind it was.
Yeah, it does not compute.
I think it was one of those things where humans are most vulnerable in that state, right? Like when we're using the restroom, like there's no more of a, spot where you expect to be alone. You expect privacy. You know what I mean? That's where you can find privacy, is in the restroom, And so my thinking behind that was people found comfort in that. And with this disheartening news and how scary everything was, they didn't want that to be taken away from them too early. You know what I mean? So I think they're just kind of throwing gasoline on the fire for as long as they could, if that makes any sense.
My personal theory, and this is just a theory, do I believe it? No, but do I support it? Sure. There's a lot of rumors going around that this is a test. It's to see how the American people would react to a pandemic. And something I was thinking about, it's like, well, if you just told the average American, there's this virus that could potentially kill you. Yeah, what would we do? Oh, cool. And just go about our day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't make a difference. So let's send a federal agent who's wearing, I don't know, some khaki shorts and like a polo shirt, right? He goes in just one day, just like a few of them go out to different stores across the country, like different big stores. And they just like, I want all the toilet paper. Okay, so all these different agents, they disappear with all the toilet paper from a set of different stores. Somebody sees that, and of course, I'm sure there's a federal agent involved. Is like, oh yeah, hey everybody, look, the toilet paper's run out. Oh, this must be because of that virus. And then everyone, like, because that federal agent has the ability to make himself, go viral very easily, very noticeably, in different accounts and that sort of thing. Everyone was like, oh my God, the stores are going to have a shortage of toilet paper. We'd better go. And bam, then it just started this chain reaction that they didn't even need to do anything at that point. It's like, and so what that is like, it was like, let's take something away from the stores, nothing important where it's going to actually get people killed, like food, like nothing that's going to make people like stab. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. People have gotten stabbed over toilet paper. It's stupid as hell, but nothing that's going to cause mass scaled rioting. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take the toilet paper. And they were like, okay, yeah, sure. Let's do that. And I think that's honestly like, that's just what I think. Like, I really think that there's just a test going on with all this. And it's just kind of the whole response and like social media. Like, it's just a general, like, how are people going to respond test? Like, does that make sense?
Kind of. I mean, the concept makes sense, but I'm not entirely sure.
That's the thing, is I support it, but I don't believe it.
I don't even know if I would...
makes sense, but I think people are just retarded.
Yeah, I would even boil it down to that. I mean, I just
well, that's evident,
right?
I think it's so my paper shredding guy at my company had a cool insight. He lived in L.A. during the 90s, during the L.A. riots.
Right.
And so we got to kind of bantering back and forth last week about this when he picked up our shredding stuff, and he had a good point on that. He said, "I guarantee you that hoarding the toilet paper started in L.A." And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Because they are the stupidest people on earth."
Huh.
He said, "Black, white, yellow, green." He's a Hispanic guy, so he can say whatever race he wants. He said all of them are retarded.
Right.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean,
Looking at the state as a whole, yeah, I could probably gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could drop a couple chips on what's the most stupid state in the country? Probably the West Coast.
Probably, yes.
Right. So you got all that. Is there anything else? Like, I know I talked about the reservation and all that when it comes to like new COVID. Oh yes, they shut down the gun stores.
So yeah, I was going to say that our illustrious governor decided that gun stores are non-essential services. So you need some ammo. You can't just go to the store and pick up, which is funny because I think that in her mind, she was sticking it to the gun owners with this. So here's what everybody that I know has done, and that's the reason why it's even hard online. So you couldn't go buy your 2 or 3 boxes of 223 to go out to the range and go shoot. So you end up buying 2,000 rounds online.
Mm-hmm. I mean, exactly. You just have it shipped to you. I mean,
yeah. So instead of buying a couple hundred rounds, you buy like
2,000, so I don't have to go back to so I don't have to do it again. I'm just giving them more money.
So Miss Lujan Grisham, you didn't defeat the gun owners. All you did is make a stockpile for the Boogaloo.
Yeah, all you did was make people realize, oh yeah, maybe they had a point.
Right. And firearm sales have gone through the roof. Every gun store before they got shut down, every gun store around here and even across the states were empty of guns.
Yeah.
There were several. There was one in Utah I saw online on YouTube, and they were closing by 2:00 in the afternoon because they didn't have any more guns to sell.
Interesting.
And this was a big store.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, that's, yeah. I mean, look at all those.
This is made. I know you, John, have mentioned, this is red-pilled a lot of people. I know we use that as a phrase, but it's true. This is red-pilled the whole nation into realizing, you know what? I don't think the government could get to me and help me if I needed it right now.
Right.
They got bigger fish to fry.
No kidding.
No kidding.
So I better take care of myself.
Yep. And it is astounding to me that someone actually out there seriously has said, what do you need guns for? That's what police are. Really? The fact that someone said that. Well, it's probably someone in LA that said that, and we already know. We talked about that just a minute ago. So
stamped firing pins.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
No, it's dumb. So, that's kind of the mentality that we're dealing with. And that's why it's so frustrating, because you have common everyday people who aren't exactly on the right wing that would never say something as stupid as that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not it's not a politics issue at that point. It's a literal intelligence issue. It's literally, I don't know if ever, I've said IT can put up, I don't know if he's already got that on there, but the whole grug with the nods, that is literally what we're dealing with, is grugs running around, dude. That is what authority caveman is for, it's stupid. So yeah, and that's what it's every show. I almost want to rename the show to prepare yourself or something, because we're always talking about it.
Well, is today the day?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's good. Yourself. Perfect. Yeah, and that's exactly it. We're always talking about prepping yourself, and I like that. So what do we want to get into next?
Go ahead. I know So one thing we didn't put on the show notes I want to mention real quick. There's proof come out now that lo and behold, I know this is hard to believe, but lo and behold, China lied about how many deaths there were.
No.
Yeah, I know it's hard. It's hard to believe. They're thinking it's upward now of actually 60 to 70,000 deaths.
Dude, China's like the cute kitty of nations. They would never.
I am so surprised at that. And so those, I know we were like when we were talking about the crematories, and
Yeah.
I remember UIT said, well, maybe it's medical supplies. Well, maybe there was a lot of medical supplies, but I tend to think there was a whole lot of bodies going in.
I told you. I freaking told you. I was the guy who was the skeptic there. I was like, there's probably like, way more bodies. Like medical supplies is one thing, but like you can burn medical supplies.
I was torn. I was really, call me naive, but I was torn thinking, you kind of think, well, yeah.
At the time, it wasn't here. You know what I mean? At the time, it was this far off place in this city. You know what I mean? It wasn't even all across China. It was just in this city, and the media was freaking out, and all that over there.
Speaking of the city of Wuhan, other tests and proof has come out now, which is funny because, again, going back to the CDC and the World Health Organization, they have actually been helping to hide some of this for China. And the city of Wuhan, where they have the wet market, do you guys know what the wet markets are?
Yeah.
It's like fresh meat, right?
So those of you on the air that don't know, a wet market is where, the animals are live and they kill it there in front of you when you buy it. So it's like fresh of fresh. But the thing is they're in all these cages, they're stacked up, and the theory was that's how this virus started, because all the animal poo was getting mixed together and all this stuff and everything, which is disgusting and can cause disease and has. But you know what? They didn't find any of the bats in the Wuhan market.
No
COVID-19, not in one bat.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bat. Now there is the wet market in Wuhan. It's only 2.1 kilometers away from the wet market. Is the Wuhan lab for advanced biowarfare. Yeah, and this lab studies, like I said, different viruses to be able to weaponize them. And right across the street is just a regular old hospital.
Check out what I just put in the chat. I just put it in show notes. So
right across the street from this lab is just a regular old doctor's office. You would think that a place where you're studying like deadly like viruses, you wouldn't have sick people going near.
Crazy. And no, it's all just so perfectly convenient for a pandemic to break out. Almost intentional, I'd have to say. So, I've actually been getting a lot of comments that I'm racist because I staunchly believe, not even that it's bioengineered, but that it actually came from China.
China.
Yeah, I'm dead serious. And these are people that I would think were fairly patriotic or something like that. Some people who would care about this country. But they were like, oh, well, we don't know where it came from. You just have a grudge against China. I'm like, no, it's just historically speaking, China has not been by any means a trustworthy country. Like for at least 100 years,
IT, are you the one that was telling him that?
What?
No.
No, I'm just messing
No.
with you because he was saying that there was somebody giving him a hard time about it coming from China, and
Oh
Mm.
yeah,
this person was relatively conservative and stuff. So I was like, really, IT? I was just messing with you.
Yeah, and it is just kind of funny because even on like Facebook, someone said, "I believe that China has released this virus to deal with the Hong Kong riots." Right? Somebody just said that, and underneath that was a comment from left winger, uh, who was just going on. You're racist for saying that. That's saying it came from China. It probably came from here. We don't know. You're racist, and I just put, so it's racist to support Hong Kong. I'm just saying, it's like it's the same race as far as I know. I mean, maybe not the same speck of land, but yeah, and this is kind of like you can see where Xi Jinping has gotten his little robots to go out on the freaking platforms, and I don't mean actual robots. I mean like people who are actually loyal to China and go, CCP agents of the Chinese Communist Party to go out and make us Americans feel bad for questioning our actual overlords, which is China.
Right. And this whole quarantine and stuff that we've been going through and everything, the stay at home and order, it's been hard on Americans because we're not used to being told where we can and can't go.
Exactly.
But John, there is a release from all your worries on Netflix right now.
Oh no.
It is the great
Tiger King.
Tiger King. So I never have.
Speaking of bat shit and viruses, Tiger King.
You're right.
Hey, no, that was a IT. That was a better. What do you call it when you roll into the next topic?
Segue.
That was a better segue than I had. Thank you.
Dude, they sell those for $5. Sorry, that was dumb.
The inventor killed himself on one
Yeah.
of the Segway.
Oh, one of those things. The stupid. Oh man, those little stupid. Anyways, Tiger King.
Yeah.
What on earth is Tiger King Warspirit? I haven't looked into it. I see the memes.
Oh, you haven't seen Tiger King yet, bruh?
I have not looked into it.
Okay, so you cannot make this crap up, and I almost cuss because it is like freaking insane. There is no way you could like make this stuff fiction. It's true story. It's a documentary about this guy out of is it Texas or Oklahoma? I'm forgetting now.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, you're right. It is Oklahoma, and he owned this private zoo.
And it was filled to the brim with pretty much just tigers.
Pretty much.
That was the main thing. I mean, he had monkeys there and things of that nature, but it was mainly tigers. Anyways, go on.
And so, yeah, so this guy, and his name is he named himself Joe Exotic, and he looks like this cowboy-looking dude, but like 80s, like with a mullet. And you think, oh, and he's like comes off as a libertarian. That just happens to be gay.
Yeah. I thought that was that. I mean, he's a very conservative man on the out. Well, I mean, not conservative. He has a blonde mullet, a pierced eyebrow, 5 or 6 piercings on each of his ears, respectively. And he's gay, and he's a gay libertarian, pretty much. Gun owner. I mean, I'm talking like 50-round mags on an AR-15 gun owner, like suppressors. I mean, optics, the whole shebang.
And he was very, very vocal about what he would do with those guns, wasn't he, IT?
So there was this, he had an adversary in the field called, her name was Carol Baskin. She was the owner of Big Cat Rescue. I want to say it was still in the same state, or it was kind of towards Florida or something along those lines.
Yeah, it was towards Florida.
Yeah, and effectively what they did is they, I mean, as the documentary had pointed out, she pretty much did the same thing he did, except for she didn't breed tigers, or apparently she didn't touch them, in air quotes. And she opened it to the public. It was basically a zoo. People paid to get in. I mean, it was the same thing that he was doing, and it was just under a different guise of we're here to help, and instead they're putting small. I mean, the documentary goes over it, and there's so many twists and turns in this. I mean, they even bring PETA into it, and I mean, it was just absolutely insane. So this individual had always commented on his podcasts, on his videos that he made, on his music videos he made. Yes, he was a music artist for a while. That he wanted to kill Carol Baskin, and if she came near the property, she would get shot. They were gonna put tannerite in her and blow her up. I mean, the whole 9 yards. I mean, he kept. I mean, quote from the thing. I mean, he always that bitch Carol Baskin. He wanted her dead. Effectively, is what he wanted. That was his end goal with her. And I mean, it was just absolutely insane. And so it goes on. You learn more about this guy. His name is Doc. I think it was Doc Anton. I think he was the doctor of mythical art or mythical science. What that means is ambiguous. They kind of throw it in the documentary. Nobody really knows what it means. I don't even think the person who said that they know what it means.
Pause. Mm-hmm. This is. If there isn't proof that this is a breach in the Matrix, this entire 5 paragraphs.
This is all legitimately true.
This is all true.
I know.
Look it up.
Crap.
I know it's real. That's what I'm saying. It's that's what I'm saying. The world's gone nuts, and it's a breach in the Matrix. Proof in the last 5 paragraphs. I might go back and typography this out because this is ridiculous. Anyways, sorry. I just was sitting there. I'm like, wait. We're talking about tigers. We're talking about PETA. We're talking about guns, and we're talking about a wizard doctor. Okay,
it's so hard to make it up. And the gun. I mean, the bigger gun owner, Tiger King. His name is Joe Exotic. That is his legal name. Is Joe Exotic.
Yep.
He changed his name from Joe. It wasn't Sklo. What was his last name? I'm gonna look him up.
I can't remember it now. He had 2 husbands.
Yep, one of them ended up killing themselves.
Yes.
Travis, what was his name? Travis something. So his Shrevogel was his original name.
Okay.
Joseph Allen Maldonado Shrevogel, popularly known as he changes his legal name to Joe Exotic. And anyways, I mean, it just, oh my god, where to even start? I don't really know where to go from there. So Tiger King, right, like we said before, owns this reserve where it's open to the public, where people can go in and pet baby cubs, right? And that's the big draw is you pay $600 to go visit the zoo, and you get to pet baby cubs and see a whole bunch of tigers and
have literal full-grown tigers 3 or 4 feet away from.
Yeah, I mean, you could walk up and touch their snouts. I mean, and that was really their main their drawing right there. And so eventually they bring in a different character. Not character, person. And like I said before, his name was Doc Anton, I want to say. And he basically owns the same kind of thing, a wild exhibit, but he has a harem of women working for $100 a week. They all have alluded to performing sexual actions with him. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. All of his workers are pretty much female, I'm pretty sure, and they work around the clock. I mean, there was an ex worker of his that said that she indeed did have intercourse with him and several other of the women, and that was where they worked. That they got a house, they got fed, but they worked their hands down to the bone. I mean, it was just insanity, man. And so, anyways, they bring in Oklahoma. I think he was located in Florida, but he was a different man.
Okay, that one.
Yeah,
and he's the one that rides the elephant.
Yeah,
right?
he rides an elephant. Yep.
Yeah.
So he rides an elephant around quite a bit, around town, just to flex, I guess. He's just a flex offender. That's my friend's username. I just figured I'd bring it up because it was funny. That's my friend's username. Oh my god, what a lad!
Great.
Flex offender. Yeah,
I love it.
But yeah, I mean, and then they bring in this woman named Carol Baskin. A lot of hypocrisy with her, honestly. She was she owns the same kind of, like I said before, it was the same concept as the other two. I mean, it was just a big cat rescue where she had lynx, tigers, ligers, lions, the whole shebang. I mean, like I said before, and she would charge. It was one of those things like you're supposed to be rescuing cats, but you're still putting them on display as if you were one of them. I mean, you're no better than the person you're pointing fingers at. And I mean, it just goes downhill from there. Eventually, what happens is I'm trying to recall right now. Towards the it kind of goes through the entire dynamic the documentary does, but it eventually boils down to Joe Exotic wanting to take out Carol Baskin, and that's kind of what he was arrested for. Was
putting a hit on her.
Hiring a.
Here's the thing too. Again, talking about like she was just as bad as he was. So she is an accessory or suspected of murdering her husband.
Yeah, that was another thing that was brought up too, was the suspected murder of her husband.
Oh my god.
And the thing is she doesn't live as no pauper. Every time they showed her inside her house, that was a fancy ass house.
Well, he was a millionaire. I mean, he owned quite a bit of money. I mean, everybody that was in the documentary who was relatively close to him said that he could have easily had. I mean, the highest estimate people said was about $60 million worth of assets.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't no chump. I mean, she's living. I mean, the property that she owns is fantastic. I mean, she owns a hysterical amount of land for these tigers. And she owns a house that's equally as
extravagant.
Grotesque.
Yeah. I mean, everything she owns is leopard print because that's where she gets her her notoriety from in the Supreme Court. She's tried to pass several. She's been the forefront of several legislation to stop cub petting and cub breeding and things of that nature. And eventually what happens is, like we had mentioned before, is Joe Exotic is suspected of hiring a hitman to go and kill Carol Baskin. This man named I want to say what was his name? Joe. Hold on.
Oh crap!
Was it Travis? What was his name? Jeff Lowe.
Yeah,
Jeff Lowe.
Jeff Lowe.
So yeah. Jeff Lowe, Tiger King. He actually ran for president in Oklahoma. We ran for president once back in, I want to say 2014. He ran for president, and or it wasn't 2014. It would have been 2016. He ran for president early. Let me see. Joe Exotic running for president. 2016. Yeah, it was the 2016 presidential election. Joe Exotic.
I remember.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joe Exotic, he ran for president. And he didn't make it too far there. After that, he decided to run for governor. And what eventually happened there was it ended up spending, I think it was it was anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000 on his campaign. And it was using Jeff Lowe's money, basically. Like it was the park's money he didn't have. Right, he was living in. Everybody there was living in a trailer. I mean, the people ate off of meat carts. They would go out into the back of like Walmart, Smith's, Safeway, or something like that, like these grocery stores. And as soon he found out that whenever you take meat up to the counter and you set it down and you're like, oh, I don't want that piece of meat, they cannot legally put it back on the shelves. They do not put it back on the shelves. It goes in the trash and it goes back outside, right? So they would find these meat dumpsters, right? These meat trucks, or not these meat trucks, but this meat, and they would bring it back to the zoo, and they would end up feeding their employees. They would get first pick before the tigers ate what was on the truck, because tigers eat a lot. I mean, easily. I think what they spent.
It was $10,000 a year per tiger.
Exactly. And food alone, it was $10,000 per tiger. And this is an operation that has, 130 tigers on it easily. That's 130,000, or no, that's like $1.3 million almost. Yeah. That's $1.3 million to feed tigers. And so that was what his and he fed his employees at the same time, and they got paid a pittance as well. I mean, they said that they were getting equally as poorly as paid as the women in Anthony's harem, you know what I mean? about $100 a
And
week.
one of his employees lost her arm.
Yeah, she actually stuck her hand in a cage, but I mean, she ended up still working for him. 1 week later, with her arm still cut off, I mean, still gone. I mean, she just kept working. I mean, and it was just this dedication that was really fascinating to see, because these people were all felons. I mean, convicted felons. He saw it as giving them a second chance, and they were living in trailers that were provided. You know, it was just basically man camps. There was rats. It was poor living conditions, but I mean, it was something. And anyways, going back into that hitman so Jeff Lowe ends up coming into the story a little bit later, because Joe Exotic wanted to effectively get somebody else to kind of foot the bills, because the company had kind of been in ruin for a while. I mean, they'd been running a deficit after legal fees, because Joe Exotic thought it would be a great idea to make a podcast or a movie lineup of Big Cat Rescue Entertainment with the exact same logo, exact same pictures they use on their websites. It was pure copyright. That was where he had spent millions of dollars. I mean, it was about $30,000. So that was where the money went before, right? That was where the money went before, until financial restitution was found within Jeff Lowe. Jeff Lowe came in. All the presidential campaign earnings were from him. So Jeff Lowe got pissed. I mean, he was forging checks. I mean, he was forging checks for all of that. And Jeff Lowe had been convicted of animal smuggling too, because he'd go back and forth to Vegas to basically get money. He was the traveling tigerman. He would let people who got on his tour bus pet tigers, baby tigers, baby cubs. And he ends up hiring an employee who was a little bit rough around the edges. And Joe Exotic was eventually convicted of hiring that new employee of basically a hitman. He hired him as a hitman. He said he'd give him $3,000 to go and kill Kara Baskin. And that was where he was caught, because there was an informant inside of it. I mean, it was just there's so many ups and downs, folks. Watch the documentary on Netflix. It's very entertaining, very well made as well.
You know, I was really surprised at that. It's hard to believe that it actually is a documentary.
Yeah. You seriously think you're watching some fake, like Keeping Up with the Kardashians reality show?
Yeah, you do. You do.
I mean,
you really do.
It's so out of this world that you just find yourself saying "holy shit" more than once.
Right. And after, for me, so the first episode was like, yeah, you know. After the second episode, I was hooked.
Yep. And you end up watching it like, I mean, it's a binger, man. That's what
I binge watched the whole thing. Yeah.
I mean,
there's 7 episodes. They're, I think, 41 minutes long.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good chunk of time, but I mean, especially for quarantine, that's why it's blown up, is because of quarantine. I mean,
Yeah.
And that's the reason why. That's why I was telling John. I was telling him this yesterday. It's like, I honestly don't think. Hold on one second.
What?
Sorry, I had to belch.
yeah.
I got it mostly muted. I honestly don't think that it would have been as big of a deal had there not been a quarantine.
I don't know. I mean, yes, I think it's definitely a bigger deal, because people are looking for that escape, which is what you were saying. It's like, so in order to top how absolutely insane this whole coronavirus nonsense has been, well, we got a documentary that's it's pretty up there. So,
well, I think it's the very fact that COVID is not mentioned one time in this. Okay,
good.
So it's an escape for people. They're like, I want to watch something so outrageous that it makes me forget of how totally screwed we are.
Right. And that's been everything, really. Even I've resorted to that, in my fields and everything. I'm having to deal directly with this COVID nonsense, and it's stressful because people are scared.
Are you getting risk pay?
No comment.
Okay.
So we're going on. What is it? Like looking at people's eyes and everything. Like in the stores, they're just so scared and there's so much fear. I was smoking a cigarette and people started, well, I give it that. It's nice to have conversation because, again, people are looking for comfort. And a great way some people find comfort is by talking with others, getting their input, being told, don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. Even though we have really no freaking idea. Because, I had a cigarette over at the Speedway up the road. I was having a ciggy, I was smoking, and I had about 3 people, not drunks or anything, just 3 people come up and be like, hey man, how you doing? What do you think of all this? And I'm like, I think it's a little ridiculous, and we don't need to worry about it as much as we are, really. But that's kind of the main thing. It's like there's just this ambient feeling of despair in the air, and that goes as well with something that Warspirit said that cracked me up the other day. But it was terrible, but it was a really good. Like, it was a really good quote, and I'm almost going to make a writing out of it. It was such a good quote. We know we are in interesting times when we sigh because a shooter was out and about, and it wasn't about Corona. So that brings me to Boomin, Bloomfield, right?
Right.
So, what was it? Thursday? Was it on Thursday?
Yes, it was. Was it Thursday or Friday? I thought it was Friday.
Let's see. One
of those days. I'll look at the.
Yeah, one of these two. Don't worry about it. So it was in the last 2 days. There
Maybe
was
it was
a scenario.
Thursday. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there was a scenario that broke out in Bloomfield, which is the small town that we pretty much all 3 of us are bordering. And basically, well, I don't really know what happened, but from what I understand, a tank of sorts, it wasn't really a tank, it was more of an armored ranger at that, a Badger, an armored truck rolled out, and police from all different cities of the Tri-City area were traveling down 550 and shut it down. So there was an initial panic. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into what happened that day, Warspirit. You were on scene.
Well, I wasn't on scene,
Yeah,
but
you're close to it.
yeah. So I work in Aztec, and just going about my day, and several people saw these emergency vehicles going through Aztec and just rolling coal towards Bloomfield, including, like you had alluded to it earlier, a Badger armored personnel carrier, and so that's one of the SWAT vehicles that the sheriff's department owns. They own that, and they own an MRAP. And so one of people that I know called me and said, "Hey, you know anything what's going on?" I said, "Well, no, I don't, but I can see if I can look into it and find out." So I turned a scanner on and heard all this craziness about shutting down 550 and shelter in place, shelter in place. Tell all residents shelter in place. And I'm like, what the heck? So I called John, and just to give him a kind of a heads up, I was like, hey, don't freak out, but this isn't a drill.
You did not say don't freak out.
Well, that's what I was meaning.
Right.
Because I wasn't freaked out. But I did want you to know, because I had joked with you a few days earlier about tanks rolling down the street. So this was not too far of a fetch the other way.
Right.
And so I wanted you to take it seriously, but not, go crazy. But that's all I heard for like 20, 30 minutes. Well, finally, more information came out that it was an individual who had shot up or towards the Nodil Disney school, the DZ, Disneyland.
Right.
And he had shot in several different places around that school, and just drunkered old Cooter's Ned. And so they were sent out to go apprehend him. Well, he is a native individual, and so he was trying to get to, from what I understand, the reservation. Because see, if you're a native and you get back on the reservation, they can't follow you. It turns into a federal deal. I think the state police now can go on, but there's still a whole lot of paperwork. And so they were trying to stop that. So that's why they shut 550 down. They also surrounded the areas that you could get on the Nappy and tried to pin him in, which eventually they did. And he was apprehended, I think it was right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He was there's photos of it on San Juan County Sheriff's page. It looks like it's a dark green Jeep that he was driving.
Mm.
And so that was that. But see, not everybody got that information. And
Right.
so I heard through several people that there was people in Bloomfield freaking out, thinking that the martial law had begun. And I also heard that there were several individuals, and I don't, this is just kind of hearsay, so take it with a grain of salt, but they thought that the boog had started.
Right. And Bloomfield, New Mexico, nonetheless.
Right. Right there's the epicenter of the end of America.
Yeah, it's like,
The
oh
first
god!
The
Oh,
first
check this
got
out.
Fired.
Check this out. We have got, check this out, direct images in, where should I put these? Show notes?
Show notes.
Here, check it out. Bam. We got
There
some
you go.
cool photos.
There's a green Jeep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a green Jeep. So another thing I wanted to note is that this is not. I'm sure it's going to be recorded as a mass shooting or a school shooting, right? One, coronavirus is going on right now. It's not a school shooting.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's nobody there. There might be people in that area because it is kind of like a village, not Disney, whatever you said. So, yeah, I got some photos up right there of the apprehension. Dude looks like, man, what a crackhead.
Put my hands up! Don't shoot!
Right, no kidding. Well, good on us. They actually have pictures of the badger there. But I could understand even that badger being kind of a...
Really?
Well, I mean, if they're shutting down the street, yeah, it's still... I mean, if that's probably what you would see out and about is all these police sirens and everything saying, don't go down. Sure, I'm sure you would see tanks eventually, but that's the thing about, like, actual tanks. They're going to take time to get there, so I could understand... Yeah.
Just so y'all know that the Badger, all it is a Chevy chassis that's been armored up. Basically, is all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Understandable. And yeah, I guess I can go ahead and grab the photo. Actually, on that one photo, on the top photo there, the first one,
Yeah.
you can kind of see it on the right there. It's really nothing too special, but it does look like, it looks like riot control equipment, which it is, But
these guys that are walking towards them,
yeah,
because that's the team that drives the Badger is SWAT. So that is a SWAT team walking towards them, and if you'll notice that they're in formation.
Oh yeah, they're ready to search and destroy, man. Like,
right.
Yeah. See how they're all staggered?
uh-huh.
So they can all put a weapon on that dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Everybody's got a shot. Dare you? So
it looks like the guys in the rear are kind of setting up for a triangle, like a diamond kind.
Right. Well, they're getting ready to flank him in case they need to.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Cheers on that helicopter too. I bet that helped a lot.
I'm sure that's probably how they found him.
Mm-hmm. Easily.
Yeah. So, anyways, apparently there was a misunderstanding. As you said, not everybody had information that this was due to a pursuit. The standard information that went out across Bloomfield was shelter in place immediately. We're closing down 550 South.
Right, and without any other explanation. They probably should have said that there was a shooting at DZ.
Right. So immediately, even being in my shoes, if I was there, I would have been like, oh, well, here we go. Would I have like done what these dipshits that we're about to talk about do? By no means. Apparently, I don't know if you want to talk about that so much, but
no, because the fellow that I heard it from, I'm not for
Was it too
sure,
credible?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm not gonna do hearsay too much.
Yep. We'll just leave that one in the air.
rumors be there's someone that freaked out, so yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll just leave that. But understandably so. But that just is exactly what we're saying. There's fear in the air.
Oh, you can see it in people's
And
faces.
it's not that they're scared of the virus. They're scared of this tank. You know what I mean? They're scared of this.
The government.
Yep, they're scared that the government shut down 550 or whatever. That now they can't get out. They're locked in. It's China. It's happening. The FEMA camps are going to be set up in Walmart. They're going to put the chip in our hands. Oh God! It's and understandably.
You made me hungry. They put the chips in our hands. Are they going to be like Fritos or Lay's or?
No, they're going to be.
Better be hooking it up with that laser. I ain't gonna talk with you.
Right.
How about some Fritos with jalapeno bean dip?
What about chili cheese Fritos, dog? That's where it's at.
Oh,
those are sinful, dog.
Woo. Talk about sinful. You're supposed to avoid the chips.
No.
Man, I'll tell you what's sinful. It was sinfully good. I made some barbecued chicken wings.
Oof.
I keep burping up some freaking red chili. It's killing me, dude.
Well, that was what that killer belch was about. Was those chicken wings.
The chicken wings sneaking up on you.
Yeah, they were. I felt it coming, and right as I pushed the dang mute button, it was already going.
Yeah, we heard a little bit of that.
Yeah, apologize. Apologize to everybody listening. See my flatulence.
That's fine. So that's pretty much a lot of the big topics we had to talk about.
So, John, I'm talking about people thinking that the boog is upon us. If we get a reprieve, you know what would be a really cool addition to your boog gear?
I don't know, Warspirit. What would you fancy my Boogaloo Hawaiian shirt?
A pair of nods.
Pair of nods.
And I'm not talking about nodding your head. For those of you who don't know, nods it's just kind of a general term they use in the military for night vision. It's actually become a really popular thing, even in the civilian market nowadays.
Right.
And night vision is starting to become more and more affordable. Now, back in the Vietnam era is when they first started using like most of the Starlight scopes and stuff. That was all Gen 1 night vision. And so basically, unless you had a huge IR flashlight, it was useless. And even at that, it was like only like 50, 60 yards. Nowadays, they got Gen 2 Plus and Gen 3 out on the civilian market that's fairly affordable. A PSV 14 Gen 2 Plus is going for right around $2,000 right now, which, that is high, but it is obtainable to many. The best way that a lot of guys are doing it, you can mount it on your weapon, but a lot of guys are just mounting it on like a ballistics helmet or even a bump helmet. I kind of find it funny. A lot of guys, they spend all this money on this PSV 14 and can't spend $300 more on a ballistics helmet. They buy a bump helmet to mount it to, which is beyond me. But they mount this monocular on, and now you got night capability. And see, Gen Plus 2 and Gen 3 you can see with just starlight.
Oh yeah, just starlight, yeah.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people think that night vision you can see in the dark, but no, you still need some form of light.
You do need some, like if you are inside, like if you're inside Carlsbad Caverns and there's no light, it ain't gonna work.
Mm-hmm.
That is where IR light comes
Yes,
in.
infrared. Because infrared is still, excuse me, uh, undetectable by the human eye, but it's a lot of optics. For instance, take the iPhone 11. They use a lot more phones are starting to include IR sensors, infrared sensors, for facial recognition because they can send out a bunch of dots onto one person's face, and it doesn't matter day or day or night. That your face will
Oh,
still you be used to open your phone. I mean,
that
even
is so
even
cool.
even the Kinect, the Xbox Kinect uses infrared technology to actually detect motion. So, I mean, even the Valve headset, the um, the
Oh, we need to
Index,
talk about those sometime, buddy.
yeah, the
The Valve
Index
versus
Pro,
the yeah.
yeah, they're using infrared to track track you basically track the headset and the controllers. So that's really like as far as technology is concerned, it's used in technology quite often. So, but very fascinating, awesome stuff. Go on.
Um. So yeah. So infrared light, like you said, it can't be seen by the naked eye. So you can turn on an infrared flashlight, and unless somebody else has nods too, the person that you're looking for, they can't tell.
Yeah, I mean they even use infrared lasers as far as I'm aware. Like on your
Correct.
PEC box.
Yeah. So you can actually use an infrared laser on an M4
Uh-huh.
slash AR-15 as a sight because it does run into an issue when you're wearing nods of getting a cheek weld.
Okay. Yeah, I mean
Um,
that makes sense.
so that's what a lot of guys do is they'll just use an IR laser, so that way you can just kind of bring it up, but you're not all the way, and then you just use the
You
laser as
still
a
have that,
sight.
yeah, exactly. Because once that laser's on them, you're good to shoot. So.
Correct, correct.
And another
And
thing
so that's
too is
what
you can also mark things. I mean, I know that they use it for marking, over there, and they just draw a big circle. You know what I mean with their IR, and it's like, yep, I can
right,
see that because we both have nods on. You know what I mean? It's a very
right.
viable tactic.
Well, and also they use even IR in the military. They use IR painting lasers to actually guide bombs.
Mm-hmm.
So you can paint a target
Yep.
with an IR laser, and then that bomb
Wi-
detects that laser and goes right towards it.
Yep. Very, very interesting technology. I mean, even in the battlefield, it's used quite liberally, which is a good thing because it's amazing. It's great for warfare.
Right.
It's great for technology.
Exactly. But that is what is so amazing is because this stuff is finally becoming affordable on the civilian
Right.
market.
That's
That's
And
useful.
again, so a PSP 14 again is right at $2,000. It, in my opinion, is pretty much the best bang for your buck is a civilian. The next, like a Gen 3 slash Gen 4, like a Ionod or something, like the SEALs and stuff are using, and now you're getting into this like $6,000 and $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing, but this will do the job. You can on a starlit night you can see 300 or 400 yards with a PSP 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's I mean that's a I hate to use this phrase. I know people use it all the time, and I hate it sometimes, but it truly is a game changer. Because now I can travel at night when used to I would be bunking in.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Right.
Now there is a new kid on the block that it is amazing. I'm thinking about eventually getting a pair because it's hard for me as a family man to justify $2,000 for something that in reality probably is going to end up just being a toy.
Right.
But there's a company called Psionics out there, and they actually they're not even marketing it as a monocular to mount to a headset. They're actually marketing it as a night vision video camera because it can actually record.
Hmm.
And get this, it sees in color,
Interesting.
That's wicked.
and it's $600.
No.
Huh.
It's kidding.
It sees almost as far as a PSV 14, but here's the catch. And I alluded to it earlier, but our listeners weren't hearing because we was doing show prep. So night vision, it's all about refresh rate. And those of you who video game out there know that what refresh rate is and how frustrating it can be being playing a game and have horrible refresh rate.
Mm-hmm.
It's even worse when you're trying to walk in the dark.
Right. I mean, no kidding. That's when it matters the most, when it's strapped to your face.
Right. Something that's keeping you from like tumbling off a cliff. Say you was walking like around rocks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You really want a high refresh rate. So that's the only bad thing is, see the PSP 14 is 5 milliseconds.
Okay.
So it's like unnoticeable really to the human eye. The Psionics it's right there on that teeter-totter edge where you kind of do notice it at 15 milliseconds.
Oof.
Yeah. And so you do notice that there is, and see at distance, say you was shooting at a target with your psionics ocular. Say you was hog hunting down in Texas, and you had your psionics on, and you see this hog, and he's at 250 yards. He's kind of right at your limit, but you can tell he's out there. You put your IR laser on, and you squeeze the trigger, and then all of a sudden your refresh rate comes on and all you see is dust blowing everywhere. Well, he had taken one step forward, but you hadn't seen that step yet.
Right. No kidding.
Okay.
It just really boils down to that. Like, you just don't have enough. I mean, it's just reaction time.
Correct. But it's $600.
I know. It's very, very budget friendly.
Right. So yes, if you do roll with that, I would just, it's something you should be aware of, and take that into account that you're not going to be able to take those longer shots. Because the closer you are, the less that's going to be a factor.
Right.
Also, too, the other issue is, but they're coming out with more and more. There's not really any kind of mounting system for the psionics to a helmet yet.
Okay.
There's a lot of guys that are 3D printing their own stuff.
Makes sense.
And there's a lot of programs out there for people who do have 3D printers. In fact, there's a lot of guys that have them that are selling them on oh darn, what's that website where you can sell like onesie twosie stuff?
I don't know. I know what you mean though. It's like one of those websites.
Yeah. So you can get it. You can, even if you don't have a 3D printer, you can get one. But I'm sure it's just a matter of time before somebody capitalizes on that on a larger scale.
Right. Makes sense.
And see, this is
from a market standpoint.
This is the Psionics Quora. Now the Psionics Quora Pro is coming out next month.
Okay, and what features are they bringing?
Nobody knows quite. It's kind of like been real hush hush, but they are thinking they are going to up that refresh rate.
That would be a game changer, honestly, especially if they can keep it at a competitive price point like they had before.
They're thinking MSRP right now on it is going to be right at $1,000, so that's still half
of what you would normally pay for a monocular,
right? Of a PSV. Yeah, but for a monocular that is either black and white or green and black. Oh, and that's another thing that I think a lot of people don't realize. So the PSV 14, there's two different models, and in video games and stuff, a lot of times you always see, well, for the Fleur you see the black and white. But then true night vision, you see the green and black. But they do have night vision that are on the grayscale.
Okay.
And the cool thing about having night vision on the grayscale is it's actually it's easier for the processor to make a sharper image with grayscale than
gray
it is
than green. Yep.
Yeah. And so you can see a lot more detail. You can even read books and like more writing stuff easier with grayscale.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so you can read maps a lot easier in grayscale. That's the reason why the U.S. Army actually went to grayscale. They don't have green stuff anymore. That's old school. but it's still out there. You can choose either one, and some people, I think I call them 1911 owners. They still want to have the green and black because they think that that's the classic. But if you are going to get a PSV 14, from everything I've read, get the grayscale.
It's just a better experience.
Yeah, and it's the same price.
Right. Seems like a no-brainer, honestly.
Yeah, it is. If you and again, still, if you have the money, even after this Psionics Pro come out, first of all, it is not war tested. Okay, the PSV 14 is,
That too.
And even so, the Psionics Quora, and I don't know, maybe they will improve this too, but the Psionics Quora, its battery life is only 2 hours. The PSV 14 runs on AA's and lasts 50 hours.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, so in a war zone type scenario, you're going on a mission, 50 hours, you bring one more set with you, and you're over 3 days. No problem.
But with the Psionic, you're like, SOL.
Right. Yes and no. So they did make it. They made the Psionic take that very popular Fuji camcorder battery.
Okay.
And so the batteries are cheap. They're like $10 a battery.
Uh-huh.
And so you could buy like several batteries, but here's the thing. Now you're adding weight to your kit. 2, 4, 6, 8. So say it's a long night because it's cloud cover and you got 8 hours of night of darkness. You got to have 4 batteries to last all night.
That 4 batteries could be 4 extra cartridges. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, right. Because I actually already looked them up because I'm a weight guy. Because I backpack, and I was looking at them. And so let's see. Let me look right here. So those batteries. And this might not sound like a lot, but they weigh 13 ounces a piece.
Okay, that's pretty sizable, honestly.
That's almost a pound. So you're carrying around 4 extra pounds of weight. Whereas, and I don't know what 4 AA batteries are, when 1 for inside it and 2 for backup, but I doubt they weigh a pound.
Right.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's definitely some exciting news. It's something that I never necessarily looked into.
Yeah. It's definitely something
I've always
to
been very, very fascinated with night vision. Even as a kid, but man, back in the 90s, you want to talk about something that seemed like it was unobtainable.
Yeah. Yeah, I never really considered it, but it's a big deal. Yeah. Night vision all the way. If you have money, imagine being able to move not just during the day, but at night safely.
Right. And there's lots of guys who are using it, again, like in Texas for hog hunting. Because, see, the hogs, they only come out at night, and if they're smart. So if you turn on a flashlight, they scatter.
Yep. So using that FLIR, even like a thermal optic is just invaluable.
Oh, yeah. Well, and see, that's the other end of the spectrum. And me and John was talking about this. See, FLIR is cool too, because now you see the body heat of the animal. And if I was wanting to do optics, like a weapon mounted light, I think I would go with FLIR. Because you're looking, of course, for you're going to be shooting at living things. So that gives off a heat signature. But the problem is using FLIR. The reason why the U.S. military don't use FLIR on their helmets is because you can't see any detail.
Right. That makes sense. It's just used for quick target acquisition.
Exactly. And you can see that hog hiding in the brush down there.
Right.
And you can see through walls.
I know, right? I thought that was crazy.
Yeah. If it's sensitive enough, if it's a sensitive enough IR or FLIR sensor, body heat sensor, because it goes off of thermal, not light
reflection.
Right. Well, and see, that's another.
For infrared is that it can reflect off of glass and metal surfaces.
Right. I just thought of this. That actually would be another thing that might make it useful if you did want to use it as a monocular. I guess it could be used in total darkness.
Infrared, yeah. Because it's sending out
Because
its own specific.
yeah, because all it does is measure the heat off of everything.
Mhm.
It's basically a visual thermometer.
Right.
All right. Well, yeah, so cheers to that. The world has gone in a strange, peculiar direction, and, well, as I said to you, Warspirit, there's a lot to consider when it comes to surviving. You know, when the whole thriving stops, there's a lot of things. It's like, oh, gee, I didn't even think about that. We're trying to cover those bases before we get there, you know?
Right.
So
and that's the goal, and you're never gonna be where you want to be, no matter how far along you are.
Right.
You just got to do the best with what you got. The biggest thing is to use that gray matter that's in between your ears.
Right.
Use your brain.
Right.
Use your brain, in case you didn't know what gray matter is, you stupid Californian. So, yeah, I suppose we'll go ahead, start kind of wrapping things up. Because, I mean, we covered pretty much everything. It was a good show. Kind of that little late weekend bust. You know, I'll probably look into either playing some Doom Eternal, maybe playing something with you guys after this. That was something else we were going to talk about with some games and stuff. But,
yeah.
I suggest you go ahead and, you know, check those out. I mean, Doom Eternal is probably the best single-player game I've played in years. To each their own. But Doom Eternal is it
Easily
really
the
brings
best
back
first-person shooter, I would say.
Yeah, like first-person single-player experience. Credit to Call of Duty, they're making a comeback. It's kind of on that bandwagon of hating Call of Duty, and it's for good reason. They're just generally Activision has been like scummiest of scum when it comes to developing games and that sort of thing. Because they just do scummy shit. Like they just try everything at every turn to like gyp their players. But Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the new one that came out, is actually really good. I was impressed. I've actually been sort of addicted to it. In quarantine, things go along. Doom Eternal, Modern Warfare, and I know Modern Warfare is kind of old talk at this point. You have Animal Crossing, and that sort of thing too. For the kids, if you like, you know, if you want to get your kids something or like innocent games like Minecraft and that sort of thing,
Animal Crossing is a strong
Animal
suggestion.
Crossing, yeah, it's actually quite enjoyable. Good, harmless.
That's just for Wii, right?
It's for the Switch.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Switch.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's just for that little Xbox doohickamajigs.
Nintendo.
Right. Actually, yep, that. So yeah, got all that going on. Really grand. Especially, you know, speaking of Doom, we all three are Doom fanatics, really. We love Doom. There's nothing more badass than going into the depths of Earth or Hell and slaughtering demons in the millions.
Yes.
To metal music, it's quite American, really. So, go and get yourself if you got any gaming consoles, go see about consoles or
titles.
PC. Yeah, they're really good. If you haven't already heard about them, because they are everywhere, I'm sure. Not as everywhere as COVID, but they're everywhere.
That's one thing that I really am surprised at, and I'm glad that I obviously understand that it wasn't him that did it, but I'm glad that Todd Howard can actually put out a decent game because
Oh no. That's one of the things that people confuse all the time. Id Software developed that game. Bethesda just published it.
Yeah.
So Bethesda gave them
get-
money. Basically, gave them money, allowed them to print copies. That was it. Put their name out there. Id Howard. Oh my gosh, really? id Software. Hugo Martin was the writer. I mean, Todd Howard, Bethesda had pretty much no say in that video game.
We're all
Well-
Todd Howard.
We were all
Well, and
Todd
guys,
Howard.
the guys over at id, I mean, I've always been a very big fan of them, and there's still guys over at id that have been with them since the beginning. Still.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, and I was actually just watching another review of it today. Actually, I'm gonna give a shout out to the guys over at the AVG and what's their Cinema Massacre. They were talking about it, and they were showing some videos and stuff of it, and I love how they added more color to it. They made it look more like
Doom.
a Doom game.
Yeah, because the other one was very dark. Like, and that was something that John
It
was
was.
commenting on. He was like, "It looks cartoonish," and I'm like, "Well, when did Doom come out? Right? When did the original Doom come out? They're trying to adhere to the classic Doom as much as humanly possible."
Yeah, it was like Crash Bandicoot when the gladiators showed up, dude. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
And that
His
was-
face on the shield. It was awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with the new Doom Eternal. I grew to like the cartoony deal. I liked 2016 though because like you had the option to like personally like get on that level of slaughtering and like dishonoring the demons one by one. Whereas Doom Eternal, it's like it's more of just like
Yeah, but on regards though, it wasn't as fun.
yeah.
Like I understand what you're talking about, but it wasn't as fun as this one. Like this
And that's
one, I
what-
just find myself laughing. It's just so much fun
Yeah.
to play.
It
Well,
is.
you
It's
see,
really fun.
that's the original Doom 1 and 2.
Right.
It didn't take itself seriously.
Mhm. Your character's name was Doom Guy, and his bunny
Yeah.
was slaughtered, so he killed demons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
United
I'm not complaining.
Aerospace Corporate. Like it wasn't serious, man.
I
No.
know. Well, it wasn't really a complaint. I was just like,
And
this one looks
that
very
was the thing that
different.
I noticed from 2016 too. Is 2016 kind of took itself seriously, and Doom Eternal kind of did in some areas too, but it wasn't on the level of 2016 was actually pretty serious.
Sick
Well,
game.
You know, and Mike Maite brought up a good point on his show. He was talking about it, and he said, 2016, they were kind of taken from the same thing that all the modern games were. He said there's so many modern games out there that are doing these like gray, dark, colored scales, and to them that's like serious. And it was funny. It was like he said it was like it's like the Pilgrims of video games.
Right.
Right.
No kidding. And this one, I mean, the color palettes and the levels are just amazing.
Yeah, I
The
do give
levels
it
are
that.
great.
2016 was very gray, very.
Dark.
It wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very pretty game.
Doom
That's
Eternal
why he
has some
said-
of the more beautiful monolithic set pieces I've seen in gaming.
There's some really like, and it does kind of bring me back to Doom, but there's some like spots in there that seem like someone may have like took the day off when it came to like texture design or just like general like details. Like there's this bit in the Gore Nest map
Yeah.
that it was like you're supposed to like hop to this thing where you like swoop up and you're kind of like in this square formation of buildings and you got to find your way across this hole that just kind of falls into a like PlayStation 1 looking fog. Like it's very bland. Like, and I was looking at this and it was like all the windows are like pitch black decals. And they were just very bland. I'll have to see if I can find it and like show it to you sometime. But I was like, there's a few spots in there. I'm like, why does this like? It looks like it's a beautiful game, but like some parts of it, it's like it's got the textures of a next gen system, but the like world and the immersion of a PlayStation 1 game in very small areas. And I was like, that's really weird.
Yeah. I never noticed.
Like
any
where
of
it's
that.
like it's very clear that the map is not there. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's very clear that it was just
So-
like pasted.
So that's very small areas, though, right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
fairly. I mean,
I
you do
never.
have to go
I don't
directly-
recall. I don't ever recall seeing it.
Like I don't know. Maybe it's just because I died a lot in that one spot because I couldn't figure out where the hell to go.
Yeah.
But like I was starting to like look at it. I'm like, this looks like shit. But like out of everything, like still 10 out of 10 game. Doesn't even cost it a point on the scale. I was just like, what the fuck is that?
Right.
So did you guys hear about the different spin they took on multiplayer?
Yeah.
What? Oh yeah, it's battle mode. I haven't heard too much about it, honestly. I haven't heard too many good things.
You play as Doom Guy, or one person does.
It's
and then
1v2.
two other people
plays demons.
Yeah. So I heard this one guy. He said it was actually kind of interesting because he played as a pain elemental, and so here he is dropping down fiery skulls on Doom Guy while he's like going around. He said it was weird though because every different demon actually controls different.
Yeah.
And so you can be kick ass at Doom Guy. Then when you go into multiplayer, you got to figure your demon out.
Right, that makes sense.
Well, it's just kind of like a loadout at that point, really.
Yeah.
So I mean, or like pick your own vehicle, because that's how I would probably describe how the demons play. Is like it's a vehicle. You know what I mean? It's like you're driving. It's like
I mean,
two
it's
tanks.
no different than playing, like say, a game called Risk of Rain, which I adore actually. Game like that, or even another good example, like a game where like Q and E do different abilities. It's like to say that learning a control, or something like that, like learning different controls is a bad thing. It's kind of weird.
Right.
But
yeah, well, really cool game. Let's go ahead and start wrapping it up, boys. I'll go ahead and say a prayer. Do we wanna go ahead and get that TV sign off?
Yeah, no, I'm 10 miles ahead of you. Keep going.
Good, man. Well, thank you, Lord, for bringing us here tonight, Lord. Thank you for protecting us, and thank you for the internet still being on. That's important to me. I pray that you protect us and our families as we go forward. It's a scary time to be in. I pray for peace and patience with everyone around us and everyone across the country, Lord. I pray that if things get worse, that that we find ourselves in your favor, Lord. Thank you for just protecting us and everything you do. I pray that the show reaches out to people, to ears that need to hear it. That hope is not lost, and that not everyone is as stupid as the Californians. Thank you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
And we'll sign off with that.